All right, we're back for another podcast about books.
About books, a book podcast about books. And this installment, we read Farewell to Manzanar, which I know is practically required readings in many schools, but in fact, I had never read it. And I'm the one that chose this. And the reason I chose it, I realized I was trying to remember, and I realized that reading the History of Ukraine book, and wars broke out so frequently there, I learned that it is common practice to round up and incarcerate all the foreign nationals during wartime. It never occurred to me that was common practice. Doesn't make it all right, doesn't make it, okay, especially not in a democracy based on immigration. But I wanted to look more closely at that, and then I wanted to look at it through Farewell to Manzanar. So I chose the book. I know Joe's already read it, but it was worth a reread, I think.
Well, if you're looking for a book that about people in prison, I'd say this one is very effective because I felt like I was in prison as I was reading it and was looking for escape routes every which way.
Oh, I'm sorry you felt that way. It's so short. I thought it was very quick. All right. So I'll go ahead because I have more positive things to say about it, perhaps. A Farewell to Manzanar was written by Jeanne Wakatsuki Houston. She was a teenager, or was she a teenager? No, she was younger than that. She was in elementary school, actually. She wasn't very, very young, but she was probably, I should know this, probably 11 or 12 or so.
She was like a little girl, like
a little girl,
6 or 7 or something.
Oh, that young. Okay. When they were like blindsided by the attack on Pearl Harbor, and the government, Franklin Roosevelt was the president, decided to round up and incarcerate all Japanese living on the West Coast, and moving them inland into what they called camps. They were prisons. They were surrounded by barbed wire. And this was citizens and non-citizens alike, although there was a law that Japanese could not become citizens. So they were stuck between a rock and a hard place. And of course, the material point is that they did not incarcerate Germans or Italians during World War II, only Japanese. And ultimately it worked, this incarceration worked its way through the courts, and it was found to be illegal, and it was ended within a few years. But it was still, in a democracy, especially one based on immigration, still not the right thing to do.
Right. Yeah. And this was a short book, but it felt like 500 years of Ukrainian history. Just like, I mean, yeah, it's like a kid just remembered some time and just no real detail. If you're waiting around looking for explanation, yeah, you're just not gonna get it. You're just gonna have to. This is like I don't know. It makes me remember I had to read this in elementary school, and I just thought, like, man, there's weight to it, there's significance, there's gravitas, and I'm like, man, it wasn't me. It wasn't my fault. This book was just, each chapter was, I don't know, I just wanted it to, like, well, just, get on with it. Like, what, like, brothers and sisters get introduced, this cousin's gone, the dad has a downfall, declines, and the mother holds everyone together. Then it just was like, it was just a, I don't know, meandering, sprawling, just a diary.
Memoir, a very personal memoir, right? You're right. Written, from a child's perspective, of course. There's no detail, there's no depth here. there's impressions and there's personal remembrances, and also, by a child that idolized her father, and it was sketchy. It was blotchy. It was not. It was not highly detailed. It was not in depth. It was not. No conclusion was reached. However, I think there is power in the personal story, and I think we can, kind of reach some conclusions, at least in the context of the book. So first of all, the book is divided into 3 parts, part 1, 2, and 3, no particular title, which lets you know that she's not doing a lot of in-depth thinking about this. This is a very personal journey for her. The first part is about the first, their lives in the United States, in California, focusing particularly on her father, who was a character, and then their sudden and, as a child, of course, unexpected incarceration in this camp. Her father was sent to another one. A lot of the men that were considered potentially dangerous, I suppose. And the mother, head up of the family, was sent to Manzanar, which of course is in California. And then part 2 is about the lessening of the strictness of these camps, so that conditions became better. People incarcerated, established societies or established order in the camp itself. But still, it's from a child's perspective. And part 3 was about the after effects, the long-term after effects on her in particular. A personal journey that she had after she left the camp. She went into high school, and we can draw some conclusions about the effects of this incarceration and on her personally and culturally, I think.
Yeah, the main part I just kind of checked out of this book was when certain chapters just begin with, so when we left the prison and went camping, and I'm just like, okay, is this a memory? Is this like a time travel? Because she also time travels around. So here's my brother going back to Japan. It's like, when is this? What? Who is this? What? And then we had a teacher who joined us on the hike. And I'm like, hike? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
So
how do you have a hike if you're
That's when
if
I'm
you're
just
in
like,
prison?
This writer just doesn't really care about writing or something. So I was getting really just hostile at it. Like, this is the definitive work that kids are supposed to read, and kids are like, give me a book that, like, because we had video games, we didn't have the internet, but we had TV, and so we have to read books. And the big complaint is like, this is so boring. But this book, man, when I was a kid, I was like, what? Nothing's happening.
If there's no plot.
And then the stuff that does happen, it's, well, where did that come from? So, and if there's thousands or hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of Japanese who were in there, it's like, where are they to be like, that book does not capture at all well enough that should not be the book. Like, I don't know.
I think it can be the book that children read. I think it's accessible because it is accessible, and it's, pretty sanitized also. It's pretty mild. Nothing bad is really reported. She even sanitizes her father. So I think that as kind of an introductory book and acknowledgement that this actually happened in the United States, even in a, mild presentation to children, I think that's okay. It's better than ignoring it entirely. But I get your point completely. There is no plot. It is a memoir. It's scattered. It's full of impressions before and after, anecdotes. It's anecdotal. And so, yeah, I think you're right. It's not, but I found it moving, I had some, questions about what would it be like? How would you leave that camp? And how much of that, how do you deal with the trauma of having been incarcerated as a child, against your will in these poor conditions where they'd lived in pretty good conditions beforehand for no reason that she could she could understand. Nothing that she could even begin to address or tackle.
Yeah, it kind of the whole so yeah, that now that I'm done with the book, yeah, it's definitely a phenomenon where you have to have kind of sociopath leaders who have to make hard decisions when there's an emergency, like sending soldiers into a war zone or dropping a bomb.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or yeah, there's when there's political unrest and you have um, certain groups who are could rile up the majority or something like that. You kind of okay, well, let's spend a ton of money, let's add all these logistics and have all this staff round up people and try to rename it relocation camp. Is that good? Or
Mm-hmm.
an
Mm-hmm.
internment? That's like an internship. Yeah, internship camp. Let's do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Concentration. No, but they're there in one place because they probably might like it or whatever. So yeah, like in China they do it. The Uyghurs are in concentration camps. You could say the Palestinians is an enormous concentration
Mm-hmm.
camp. And so yeah, like that's on the other hand, people think the leaders should be totally empathetic of everyone all the time ever. It's like, well, that just is not that definitely doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like we have to stop what we're doing and care about everyone. Like the leader has
Mm-hmm.
to be away, has to be surrounded by data and advisors saying, this is happening, so we have to do something. So we could deport them all. We could round them up. We could round them up and then send them. We could like separate them so there's so few in random places. Like that was a HBO show about there was a leader who wanted to take the Jews in America at the time from you know like there was hostility towards them or something. Like, well, what if we just rounded them and spread them out so that everyone's just a little bit angry at them?
Yeah.
Or yeah, like how about diaspora? That's where they can't make so much trouble in one place. So how about we send them away? Which is,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, diaspora, like the opposite of concentration.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm. Well, leaving of the country, I think. That's how I understand it, but I'm not certain. I think that I think that people had pretty good trust in Roosevelt. Also, he was disliked a lot. I think kind of there were rabid dislikers of him. However, at the same time, there was, I think, a lot of feeling of trust in him and trust in leaders in general, which now, of course, is gone in the United States. But I think also the difference was that Americans generally, I think that the sense at the time, what they understood Europeans, they understood Germans and Italians, but Asians were always, inscrutable. That was the stereotype that Asians had to deal with, Chinese or Japanese or whoever. And so the Japanese were rounded up and moved inland so that they couldn't have divided loyalty and or communicate with either warships or, Japan, I suppose, from the West Coast. And it was kind of, an unknown quantity, I suppose, for the general population. I think it's kind of interesting that after she came out of the camp, she expected to be confronted with hate, but she wasn't. She was confronted with kind of indifference. And the high school kids that she went to school with were surprised that she spoke English. So the wartime propaganda against the Japs worked, made them the enemy. So they all thought all Japanese were foreigners. They didn't even think that a Japanese could live in the United States and speak English. It was a peculiar time. I'm glad that the courts, that it worked its way through the courts and they decided that it wasn't, the right thing to do and that everyone was released.
the only thing I can think of is I live over here in Japan, I'm half
Mm-hmm.
Japanese, and even me, I don't. The culture is uniquely uh
Uniquely
strange,
unique.
uniquely strange, because I don't, I work with them. I have students every day. I don't know what they're thinking. like
Yeah,
so
exactly.
so
Exactly.
yeah, like the
Well,
that's
that feeling is true, and it's also about what Japanese present to the outer world and what Japanese present to the inner world. That's a real, genuine cultural thing that exists, and so the inscrutableness is not. I mean, all the stereotypes are based on fact. Essentially, they just get blown out of proportion and applied to everyone. But I mean, it's there.
yeah. So that you could say, whoa, we get Europeans because we're gonna I don't know, but yeah, it is. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah,
Uh,
right. So what struck me though early on in the book was this description of the father, and immediately I pegged him for a tyrant. There is something off about this father. The history of his history is that he came from samurai family. So of course samurais didn't exist at the time, but still he traded on that cachet, aristocratic sort of roots in Japan. But at 17, he abruptly left military school and he went to Hawaii with money he borrowed from his favorite aunt. He never returned to Japan and he never communicated with anyone in Japan. In fact, when the brother goes to Japan on his pilgrimage, the favorite aunt shows the son his like grave marker because he was like dead to them. So there's something off about that father.
yeah, he's a total gambler. He just left and moved to a whole other country. Had like 10 kids or something. Which, yeah, I don't even bother keeping track of because all these characters get introduced. This older brother, a younger sister, a cousin. I'm like, okay, they're gonna be. Uh, are they anything more than a name? It's like, nope, they'll be gone, and don't worry about them. So he's got a ton of kids. He became like a fisherman, then that lost everything, and then now that he has no power in a camp, he has to submit and just put up with what you're given. That's just short circuits his whole identity.
Right. That
And
I know a big deal was made about that in my, peripheral understanding of these camps that it destroyed the Japanese man, because he didn't have the exalted status anymore. Yet in the opening chapters of this book, the emphasis on the camp was keep the family together, keep the family together. And who did that? The mother. The mother, this was it's just ironic to me that this mother was preserving the ego of this crazy father, and then even outside the camp after they were released and they reestablished their home life, all of that hierarchical trappings were gone. She got a job. So there were no family dinners anymore where he could hold court. There was none of that anymore. It's true, the hierarchy changed, was pretty much abolished entirely as a result of being in the camps, and that's pretty dramatic. But I think it would have happened anyway because of the generational difference, although it may have taken more time, may have taken more generations, in fact. But clearly, this daughter, Jeanne, is very individualistic. She wanted to be a star. She was a baton twirler in high school and just rejected all of the Japanese dancing and other cultural arts.
yeah, yeah, it was yeah, that's later chapters. I thought, okay, this is gonna go nowhere. There's only this many pages left. What, who cares about this? Typical adolescent. Now we have like we're 2/3 done. Now we're in this adolescent arc. Um, so I just like fast forwarded through that part.
Yeah, there really was no, and where she had her most personal growth was striking out on her own and getting married to a white guy. That was pretty unprecedented for a person her age and her generation, I think. And also, they revisit Manzanar, and that's where she has the realization. She says, and this is kind of the crux of the book and the title, "Farewell to Manzanar." She started her life in Manzanar. It was the beginning of her life, but it was the end of her father's life, as she saw it at whatever status that he had. Even that was a little murky. It's not very well written. I know it's highly personal. I know. Yet, nevertheless, her personal story I found kind of moving. I think the story, sometimes you have to sort of see it on a personal level rather than a political or cultural level, because it has no meaning if you think about the numbers. But how did it affect one little girl? Pretty strongly. Pretty strongly. And I think that's important. I think it's an important story to tell.
It's almost like I don't know where or when, just I think maybe college time or something. But yeah, I absorbed that. That's what made uh, Jewish people like resilient over time. Is that kind of maybe, or in particular for American of the last post-war generation, is that there's like an adoption of, yeah, things are going to get bad. Things are probably not going to go your way, or don't expect too much. I think maybe it's from like interviews with comedians like Seinfeld or Larry David, where the parents say like, "Don't hope too much.
Mm,
This is good. All you got to do is stay with me. I'm your mother. What else you want?" And
good
so
enough.
and and
Good enough for the likes of you.
and yeah, like I read other like Holocaust books or that war, or even like Fiddler on the Roof kind of represents that things just could get worse. Things could always get worse or something.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The
Uh,
fatalism in both cultures. One of the chapters in this book was called "She Got the Ganai." It can't be helped. We just have to endure. That's a characteristic in both cultures, I think, very strongly.
but the and then like so there's Jewish comedy, but also I absorbed a lot just growing up, like black comedy or humor, where you just have to just make light. You have to just joke about it, or else the quote is like, if we never laughed, we'd just be crying all the time,
Right. Right.
which
Right.
itself is like it's just a joke. Like you have to just, all you can do is laugh and shrug at misfortune and hardship.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Jewish comedians think that way too, probably. But yeah, when you said shikataganai, that holds. I think I respond with a totally just wrong wrong-headed way, where you nobly absorb and just put up with misfortune,
Mm-hmm.
and then it ignores that. Well, where is it going to go? It of course just stays in you, and it becomes depression or anger. Like you
Mm.
have to vent it out somewhere, and that's what those two other cultures do. You have to like make light or laugh or think of what's good, or this is good. This could get worse. But yeah, that shikatanai is like you have to just hold it, and that's in itself is
Yes.
good. And it's like, no, it's not.
Yes.
A human can't.
Suffering for suffering's sake.
Yeah, a
Yes.
human can't just is a human is not a limitless vacuum of negative feelings. You have to do something with it. It has to go somewhere.
One would think, huh? Yeah. But the comfort in the group. And so, you know, it's just counter to every, cultural, not every, but it's really, really counter to a lot of my American upbringing that I just absorbed, optimism, individuality, all that kind of stuff. It's just, there just couldn't be two cultures more different, I think, in my humble opinion.
Yeah.
And I want to say one more thing about this book, and then we don't have to discuss it anymore. Two more things. Sorry, I don't understand the brothers' pilgrimage to Japan and why that's in the book. But I think, he comes to, I suppose what it is, my guess is he comes to a sense of self by going through that process. And as she comes to a sense of self by enduring outside and becoming more independent outside after the camps. So I guess it was, the whole chapter was in italics for some reason, like it was some kind of fugue state. I don't understand it, why she did that there and why she felt she had to put that in. But that's my guess. But the other thing I wanted to point out was the ending with the father, the image of the father striking out from camp, going into town, buying a Nash car, which were the worst cars on the planet. Well, maybe the worst cars in the United States. Driving it back to camp, madcap, driving around inside the camp, screaming, "No buses for us," on 2 flat tires. I thought that was just emblematic and metaphorical for the way he's going to have to live his life from now on. He's driving around this American car with 2 flat tires in defiance of the United States government and in defiance of all these other non-samurai common Japanese that he shared space with for a little while.
Yeah, speaking of those like flashbacks or other, I thought those were whiffs of like Joy Luck Club, and maybe that's what inspired this whole book. Like, hey, like there's that one. You should do it. And
Oh, I
just
don't know. I think, wasn't this written before Joy Luck Club? I don't know.
I don't know. I have no idea. But when that was happening, in just clumsy ways, I was like, okay, we're some. This is someone else did it, so put that in the book. And it's like, well,
Maybe.
where? It doesn't matter. Just throw it in.
Yeah.
It's okay. And so, and yeah, maybe the biggest takeaway of this book is that what is the point of reading? There's limitless books. You don't have time to read them all. Do you focus on one topic like an expert? There's, you know, every book is translated to English. We can read anything. Whoa. What's the point of just going one by one? And I guess it's that eventually you get a sense of when you're in like good hands, when you're like, this person knows what they're talking about and they care about its delivery and they care about thoroughness, but also your, pace, and you're a regular person. You're not just a robot consuming. And this, some are, and some you have to balance the enormity of the topic, like the Ukraine history, with you got to have stuff that happens, because we're people who need to, imagine things and not just consume information. And this one is just not that. I was like, this is a person who just doesn't really know what they're doing, and it was thrust on us as kids, so that makes me even more angry at it. Like, yeah, of course I wanted to read Charlie and the Chocolate Factory or anything else. It's like, what, help me. And so then you sympathize with kids like, yeah, my teacher just, I don't think my teacher knows what she's doing, because she's making us read this book, which is just a nightmare. And then, the smart kid is like, oh, this is great, I love reading. And I'm like, this is
not great, and I love reading.
This is my fault. This must be my fault, because everyone is saying, this is a book, now read it. And I'm like, this sucks. Wow. So
well, but now you've matured and you're choosy, and your primary concern for the last, little while has always been, am I in good hands? Do I trust this author? That's not my focus or my perspective. I think that's kind of interesting that I've heard people discuss, oh, I like this author, or this guy's good, or she's really tells a good story and stuff like that, but not, do I have confidence in this author that's, not just being self-serving, but considering the reader and that kind of thing. I think that's an interesting perspective that I hadn't thought about. Might just be in might just be there in the reading process without having put a name on it.
Yeah, like there's a I remember one of my favorite movies is this Vietnam War movie Born on the 4th of July with Tom
Mm.
Cruise
Oh,
going to
yeah.
Vietnam. Yeah, it's not really one of the ones of, Vietnam, war or whatever, but that's like really good one about, and it's written by the guy who went to Vietnam and got paralyzed from a friendly fire shot. So I'm like,
Mm.
okay, I'm gonna read this book, and the book is really crazy and hard to because it's just like nonstop, uh, just ex- I don't know. It's just it's like a linear, like the guy's talking to you the whole time. So then you
Mm.
realize, oh, the movie is just better at delivering this story, which deserves to be told.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's all about the balancing of the importance of the topic, the thoroughness of detail, and then the but also the delivery of, is this interesting? Is this we like, yeah, that's why they cut characters. This makes it confusing, or these three characters get merged into one. It's like, yeah, maybe that's
Mm.
what you should do, or maybe this there's not enough story here from one, so we merge two peoples into one. Like that's where you could say, oh, fiction is important because it has to be packaged.
Well,
But yeah,
it has to be what do we want to say? It has to tell the truth without necessarily being factual or accurate. So there's still a truth to be found, however you manipulate the elements that go into it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
that's why I take away this one gets a D minus.
Oh my, that's harsh. But yeah, she never wrote anything else, and I think she was probably prodded to do it. I think her husband is a publisher or in publishing, and so I think it's okay. Entry level introduction to this event that occurred in American history for young people, but and I'll tell you, since then, I tried to look up other books and other videos about this topic because I was pretty compelled and interested in the topic, and there are not a lot of books about it. And even the videos are generally projects, and the people that speak on the videos, of course, they're not professionals. And oh, yeah, they're just, again, anecdotal and very cheerful, which is kind of interesting. Nobody is really angry. There's just this kind of, and I guess it's part of this, endurance and gaman shikataganai philosophy. There's very little. One video that I saw, there was a San Leandro library project. San Leandro Library was involved in the project of taping survivors of the camps, and one guy was. You could see there was a little bit of anger underneath, but not anybody else. And surprisingly, there should have been more. Seems to me, even though it was a long time ago.
Yeah, who
Okay,
knows? You
well,
could you could
yeah.
say superficially, like, someone could say, oh, maybe it just wasn't that bad in there,
Mm-hmm.
and then also the other side is that when you got out, they you know could have thrived better than other ghettoized groups who
Mm-hmm.
are held down, and then are kept down after liberation.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, just maybe. I mean, were people starving in the Manzanar? Was there
No.
so I don't know. Who knows?
It
You
was
could.
poor conditions, but conditions did improve. But the other thing, that struck me as ironic was here. One of the complaints about Japanese is that they're clannish. They stick together. They don't marry outside their race and that kind of stuff, especially at that period of time. And so, what do? They corral them up and they put them off together so they can just be clannish together. It's just kind of. So your philosophy that you read about, just let's just spread them out a little bit. Maybe that'd be better. But I think it was a fearful time, and everybody was kind of in a kind of panic mode and have to do something, and
Yeah, and we're of course
that's what happened.
we're lightly speaking about, yeah, civil liberties were stripped,
Yep.
But why? Yeah, why was there? Why is this the one book? Yeah, like, is there not? There seems to not be more outrage or
I
pent up.
I didn't find much. No, I didn't find much, and I think it because I think the expose and I think the book with righteous indignation kind of goes against cultural norms, maybe, and let's not dwell on the past sort of thing, and you don't I didn't find anything really, and I kind of did look a little bit. I didn't go deep, but I did look a little bit, and there was not a lot. And a lot of it, and I brought a couple of books home and I dipped into them, and they were also rather personal and not. And didn't consider, like the political consequences or the cultural consequences on the country, sort of thing.
Hmm. So, yeah, I don't know.
Okay. That's okay. Well, I'm glad I read it because I had never read it before. And it's one of those sort of things you want to tick off when you can.
One guy, actually, the guy George Takei, who is Sulu on Star Trek, he's got to be like 90 now, but
Yes.
he was in
Yes.
there,
Yeah.
and he speaks about it. And at one point, there's one time he was on Howard Stern once, and Howard Stern was saying like, "Yeah, well, we were at war. We didn't know what they were up to, so we had to put them away for a while." And he was like, "No, you don't. That's what a democracy does not do.
Right.
They were not Japanese. They were Japanese Americans." Japanese Americans, and he goes, "Well, we needed time to figure out what's going on." And so they that was one case where
Yeah. It's the same idea with the quote Muslim ban that Trump wanted to put in. Let's just ban Muslims from coming into the United States so we can figure it out. No, that's not what a democracy is about. That's just not how you handle it. You don't close the door. Yeah.
yep. Anyway, well, I got this. Speaking of terrible hardship, I found this book. This is a Chinese American, I guess Chinese American, Yun Lee. Yun Lee. She's a was became a professor. I think she uh grew up or was born in China in the 70s when revolution was happening, and the heavy hand of popular like mob criticism of people was how you survived in those days, and she got out. But then she had I heard this on NPR. She was interviewed. She had her son committed suicide when he was 16, and she was already a writer and professor and just like total success story. And then her other son at 18 also committed suicide. So it's just like
Oh,
you're
geez.
just like, sweet lord, what the heck?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so this is new, but it's quickly became a Penguin book, and it's shortish, like 150 pages. And so it's somehow about that, where just her reflections on that. So that's hardship I could never imagine, and just what the heck. So I chose that one.
Okay. What's the title?
Oh, it's called Where Reasons End. Where Reasons End. She's got other ones, but
And
this
how do
one
you?
I
What's her
found.
name? Show the title up
E
there.
Y
Oh,
I
Y-I-L-I.
Lee.
I think it is Chinese, right? It's not Korean. Yeah. Okay, where reasons end. Oh, that's our next one. All right.
Yep.
Well, we're gonna go from bad to worse, eh?
Yep. Till we just lose our minds.
Okay. All right. Then I'll see you on the flip side.
All right. Catch you all later.